Monsanto's glyphosate has become known worldwide as a link which joins a lot of biodestructive chains together. But its days are now numbered. New evidence has emerged that glyphosate carries with it a significant risk for non-Hodgkin lymphoma, NHL, a form of cancer. Once glyphosate has been removed from the wider agricultural landscape, as it must, it is unlikely to be replaced by a safer herbicide. So far, the only contender for that role was BASF's glufosinate, but that too has run up against serious health concerns. Eventually then, a lot of deeper changes to what farming has become will have to take place, hopefully with an emphasis on consumer health rather than just profit. After 30 litigation-filled years of attempting to dominate the world's food supply through deceitful science and systematic tyranny, Monsanto has scurried under the skirts of Bayer Corporation's crop science division of Germany. But, although the Monsanto company may no longer exist legally, the 4,000-plus lawsuits against its RoundUp brand still do. Court judgments against that corporation were once unheard of. Recently, however, a verdict of $78 million in personal damages against them does seem to be a signal that that's beginning to change. Monsanto has always been a heavyweight in the manufacturing of truly nasty chemicals, as the Bayer Corporation still is. It discovered and patented the compound glyphosate, which, when applied to foliage, causes metabolic disruption in plants, causing them to die, essentially through systemic malnutrition. Because the same metabolic pathway isn't present in the gut of mammals, glyphosate was eventually cleared by the US EPA for marketing as a safe herbicide. Monsanto's brand name for glyphosate is RoundUp. These days, glyphosate is sold under license through literally hundreds of brand names. Years later, once Monsanto's gene scientists had learned how to impart glyphosate resistance into the DNA of plants, the RoundUp Ready story was born. This new glyphosate plus genetically modified seed combination went to market in 1996 as a whole new way to further intensify intensive farming. It allowed for the industrial-style farming of even acreages with less work and bigger crops. It changed the face of enterprise-scale farming. Farmers loved it and Monsanto made dizzying profits. However, within a few years, cracks began to appear in this new technology. Superweeds, toxic residues, kidney dysfunction, cancer, and the fake science, the deceitful strategies, intimidation and corruption being used by Monsanto to hide these side effects from the public and relevant authorities weren't winning. A rundown on these problems and issues is set out in an early documentary called The World According to Monsanto, 2007. This can be viewed on the Peasants Film Club website. Those early concerns described in that documentary have, since then, only become magnified, with mounting alarm about the long-term health and environmental effects. Glyphosate is presently in the process of being banned in country after country. More significantly, the genetically modified organisms which were created for it must also go. At last, it looks like an end for this harmful product is in sight, but its unhealthy legacy will likely persist for generations to come, and in some aspects the damage already caused upon the Earth's genosphere has been done forever. Part of the legacy that remains with us now is a GMO industry that is bent on justifying its own unnecessary existence by any means possible. At least while there remains that alluring possibility of controlling the world's major seed supplies, and so we might ask, where to now from here? We could look back to the world before Monsanto and try to imagine it now as then, in other words, as if their products had never occurred. But industrial-style farming was never sustainable, and it has always been a major cause of atmospheric change, of serious fertility and biodiversity losses. So instead, we might look back even further, to a time before World War I and World War II decimated rural populations across Europe, in order to get a real glimpse at sustainable farming and the way food needs to be grown for a return to optimal health for ourselves and the environment. Those chemical-based technologies that replaced manpower shortages after those wars have permanently colonized the farming industry, displacing the accumulated wisdom of traditional land use experience from those European populations. But in other parts of the world, amongst traditional peasant cultures, much of that land-based wisdom has persisted, though it is now increasingly under threat from industrial-style enterprise agriculture. The agrochemical industry is never going to accept that its chemical GMO tricks against nature eventually always break down, that evolution always wins. Although glyphosate is lost on the medical front and has been losing on the farming front for a while, there is a host of other, more toxic and expensive solutions waiting to be tried, even though their long-term failure is guaranteed. The only long-term sustainable solution is in the re-peasantisation of farming, a repopulating of the rural landscape with smaller family farms. That seems a long way off, just for now. But was as unsustainable will WWII become extinct. Nothing will stop them from trying. This item has been adapted from an article on the New Zealand Peasants website, where the related reference links can also be found.